Yes. Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is today, and welcome back. We're very excited that you are here and with us to close out the week on this lovely and incredible Friday. We made it through another very busy week, but we're not done yet. We're here early. We have a lot of business to attend to. Quick preview on what is coming up, and then we'll zoom in for further detail. We got some Boasberg problems that are brewing over there in Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia. You can see here, this is where we're going to start today because this judge, who we've talked about a lot, this is the same judge who ordered the planes to be reversed and turned around. Trump was deporting these people to El Salvador. He said, you can't do that. And while they were in the air, said, come on back. And we've been following this for some time. The Supreme Court said, you don't have jurisdiction over these cases. And so you got to get rid of it. They can sue in Texas if they're so upset about all this. But the judge has kept the case, and it has been ridiculous. And yesterday, late in the evening, we got two new documents that dropped. And here is what they look like. You can see two orders that we'll go through. One order in particular is going to be allowing discovery to continue. So to allow the gangbang lawyers to demand answers from the Trump administration. And the other is going to be allowing them to proceed pseudo-anonymously. Okay, so in other words, we don't get to actually know their real identities. So they can proceed anonymously, pseudo-anonymously, but it's anonymous. And the point of this, of course, is so that we don't dig in on who these people are, because they don't want us to find more Kilmar, wife-beater, Abregos out there. So everybody can just now proceed under their little acronyms, and nobody can know if they're innocent barbers who are here working on their PhDs, or if they're actual gangbangers, or if they're even real people at all. So we'll go through that. The judge has just gone nuts. We got Tom Homan, who's out, also talking about this, and we're excited to hear what he has to say, saying they're working on flooding the zone. Deportation number is a little light, but we're working on it. So then we'll talk about that. We've got also coming up, this would-be assassin got caught at the Capitol yesterday, and he was going to go there with Molotov cocktails and a dangerous weapon, and he was going to eliminate somebody, but he actually just kind of called it off at the last minute, turned himself in. Pretty wild story. And our friend Ed Martin also got violently attacked by a lunatic lefty, who you can see over here, comes in to text him and spits on him like a lunatic. All right, so we'll watch that, and hopefully she gets rounded up with her dog, yanking her dog around. What a psycho. All right, so that's coming up. We'll hear about the transition between Ed Martin and Janine Piro, and Trump said Ed Martin is going somewhere else, so we're looking forward to that. Then we'll get some Fanny news, because this report from the Washington Free Beacon is saying she's basically a liar, which we've already known for quite some time. And this new recording is explaining to us how much of a liar she really is. Fanny, of course, is very dramatic. She likes to come out, burst into courtrooms in her little outfits. I'm here to testify. So she comes out. Well, she was calling one of her top aides a violent person, saying we had to fire her because she's violent, she's attacking us and all these things. So I had to get rid of her. Well, that's all fake. It's just not true. Not violent at all. She just made it up. Willis's top aide invented words that Amanda never said at all. Lying Fanny Willis, the biggest Fanny in all of Georgia. Now, meanwhile, another corrupt prosecutor is also struggling. Tish, Stinky Feet Tish, she was on MSNBC on that hit show, their number one show called Inside Jen Psaki, and so she hosts that once in a while, and brought Letish over there, and Letish had to answer some questions about her FBI probe of her booty. So we'll also look at that. And then this dude, shout out to this dude, American Hero, came out and asked Tish how it's going to feel when she's in prison. We'll listen to that one. And look at these maniacs sitting in front of an American flag, commandeering our beautiful flag with their communist ideology. All right, so we got that. Then we got a little bit of Joe Biden news. So some shorter updates here at the end, a little bit of Joe Biden news. because Jill Biden allegedly gave Joe Biden the secret signal. Like, shut up. We're always wondering what this was. Is it a boop or something? Is it a buzzer? What is it? Man, YouTube just kicked you out. I made some switches. Ugh. I made some switches over here. I don't know why that is. All right, so, all right, I'll figure it out. Have to make some more switches. I had a software update on all of the router tubes yesterday, so we updated that, and I thought, oh, that'll solve it. Didn't happen, though, huh? All right, thanks for the update. All right, so Jill Biden apparently gave Joe the secret signal. We'll talk about it. And Joe Biden is hiring somebody to defend himself and to defend his reputation, as though he has one. But this is going to be upsetting to them once they release that audio recording from that Robert Hur tape, where we learn just how gone Joe Biden ultimately was. And there was a Diddy update today too, man. So a lot of stuff. So Diddy today also came out. You can see the headline here, shock ruling on jury selection from the judge. And it actually did not get wrapped up today. So we're coming back on Monday to finish jury selection. And so something went down. All right. So yeah, good stuff coming up. Now, thanks for the heads up. Rick said, I think it's YouTube. Someone else says, I'm on YouTube. I had no issues. Coffee and cocoa. What a strange situation this is turning out to be. But I want to get it fixed, and we will. Because we want clean tubes, not only on the internet, but also in our bodies. Because it's a big problem if your tubes are clogged in your bodies. And that happens sometimes when you get a little bit overweight. Now, you might think I'm going to be describing weight loss injections right now, but I'm not. These are testimonials that have come from a doctor-formulated weight loss supplement called Lean. This woman called Patty S., she said, I finally found a weight loss product that works, and Lean really curbs my appetite. And Lori M. also wrote, I've struggled to get weight off, and Lean has been a lifesaver. I'm losing a couple of pounds a week or more. And Kelly F. said this, amazing. I immediately noticed an energy boost and weight loss, and I would promote this product to anybody, said one testimonial. And of course, what we're talking about here, my friends, is Lean. That was created by a doctor and university researcher to target the same goals of the GLP-1s you're hearing a lot about, but without the injections. And the studied ingredients in Lean have been shown to lower blood sugar, radically reduce appetite, burn fat by converting it into energy. And so if you're struggling to lose some weight and a healthy diet and exercise isn't enough for you, try some Lean. And you can get started very easily. 20% off by using code Robert20 for Robert20. Go to takelean.com, takelean.com. And of course, results are going to vary on these things. A little disclaimer here. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. It's not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, prevent any disease. It's not a substitute for care from a healthcare provider. All of that stuff's pretty obvious. But check it out if you want to try something new. Takelean.com, Robert20 to save 20% off. And thanks for supporting the sponsors on the show today. We appreciate you. All right, so now let's get into the business on the day because we got a bunch of segments to attend to. Starting off with Judge Boasberg. It's getting more and more irritating by the day. And we're back. Judge Boasberg does even more of the unthinkable. Now, in addition to demanding that Trump return all of the deported alien enemies back into our country, bring them on back, he said. Now he's going to conceal their identities so we don't even know who they are. And they can proceed throughout their litigation in a pseudo-anonymous fashion because the last thing they want us to do is know who they are. If we know who they are, then we can investigate them and discover things about the Maryland man like Kilmar. They told us he was like this innocent person who did nothing wrong, was just here to improve his life and be a good father. Turns out he was beating his wife and trafficking illegals into our country. The more we know about them, the more names and identities we can get, then the worse it is for them. So the hack judges who are now circumventing the executive branch and have been doing it for months now are providing illegals with more benefits than you get, right? If you get pulled over for driving on a suspended or revoked or canceled license, your car gets impounded, you get a ticket. You get a speeding ticket, you get a speeding ticket. You got no proof of insurance, you get a ticket for that. Kilmar didn't get any of it, right? And if you get any of that stuff, you don't get to proceed under a pseudonym so that nobody can find out about what's happening to you, okay? You get a DOSL driving on a suspended license, your name goes in the record books in Arizona as a misdemeanor, okay? So the illegals, once again, are getting more benefits and privileges than you. They're not getting less due process than anyone else. They're getting more. They're getting more benefits. And the judge is doing the same here. This is from Judge Boasberg, Washington, D.C., the same judge who the Supreme Court said, you don't have any jurisdiction over these claims because they should be brought in habeas in Texas. He wrote 2 orders. This is the first one that's irritating. He says, look, first, we're going to talk about habeas petitions. And in fact, we'll come back to that. Let's start with the pseudonyms that he allows, because here is what it says on this one. It says, most of the petitioners and their next friends now seek to proceed pseudo-anonymously, right? These are a group of people who are individually detained in criminal custody in many locations, saying this court is going to grant the motion so they can proceed. It's basically anonymous, subject to further consideration by the U.S. judge who's assigned randomly to this case, which, of course, he was not assigned randomly. He says, look, now, generally, a complaint must identify the plaintiffs, right? These are the rules that apply to all of us, you and me, that we don't get these special benefits because we're just citizens who follow the law. If you want to get a benefit, you should be an illegal alien breaking the law and then call the FBI and they'll let you go. This identification requirement that you identify who is actually suing reflects the presumption in favor of disclosure of the litigants' identities, right? The judge is going to give us all the rules before he throws them into the shredder, which stems from a general public interest in the openness of governmental process, right? That's what we want. And the tradition of open judicial proceedings. These are American traditions that they are throwing by the wayside. Now, a party moving to proceed pseudo-anonymously, like these people are, bears the weighty burden of both demonstrating a concrete need for the secrecy and identifying the consequences that would likely befall if you could just use your own names like Kilmar did. As a result, the court must balance the litigant's legitimate interest in anonymity against countervailing interests in full disclosure. A little bit of a balancing test there. Well, why do you need it? Why don't you want it out? Apply a flexible, fact-driven balancing test. All right, so this judge is going to now balance the terrorist right to privacy, the alien enemy's right to privacy, with our public right and American interest in knowing who these people are who are challenging the president's order of removal by delineating them alien enemies against the will of the American people, right? We've elected Trump to go in there on his campaign promises that he would do these things. He's identified the people who need to go. They've gotten plenty of due process. We've talked about that ad nauseum. Now they're going to sue to stay in our country, and we can't even know who they are. Okay. The judge says, here's what I'm going to consider before I get there. Says, I'm going to consider whether the justification asserted by the gangbangers, terrorists, is merely to avoid the annoyance and criticism that may attend the litigation, or is to preserve privacy in a matter, right? Is it only just because you're like scared? What's on? Whether identification, so we're balancing these factors, poses a risk of retaliatory physical harm to the gangbangers, or even more critically, to innocent people. The ages of the persons, are they young? Are they old? Are they like 8 years old? Are these like 40-year-old dudes? Whether the action is against the governmental or private party, and relatedly, the risk of unfairness to the opposing party. Okay, so you can just weigh those factors, and we win every time. 5 out of 5 on all of those. Whether the justification asserted by the requesting party, yeah, they don't want to be criticized because they learn once they tried to hoax us with Kilmar, and they said the Maryland man, the Maryland man, the Maryland man, many times over to try to beat it into people's brains. He wasn't a Maryland man at all, wasn't a citizen, was in the country illegally, had 2 orders of protections where he was beating his wife and threatening her kids and maybe his kid, causing what some people might say would be reckless endangerment, multiple felonies, skidding around in the car with kids around. The whole thing was egregious. That was just his domestic relationship. Then there's evidence that the Tennessee police stopped him, wanted to investigate him, called the FBI to bring them down and do it. Didn't do it. He had 8, 9 people in the back of his car. Many of them had, all of them had no luggage, no real basis for them being construction workers, questions about whether they were men or women being trafficked to go do construction somewhere. And the list goes on, right? Then he's got the MS-13 tats. He has been seen and arrested with gangbangers in a parking lot. He was adjudicated in a court of law, had an appeal process on that, and then adjudicated for withholding. And all that time, they tried to cover every bit of that up. And that withholding, by the way, was essentially fictional based on the judge's order from David A. Jones, which we've talked about before. So all of those things, if we would have known about it, right, that hoax wouldn't have caught wind. So they need to bait and switch people. They don't want you to switch. They want to bait you and hook you on this idea that they're Maryland men. But this is obviously not. So if you can go through these, right, whether the justification is to avoid criticism and privacy, he'll walk us through them. He says, at this early stage, they have succeeded in showing, okay, so the illegals, people just like Kilmar, who had the same process, same adjudication, more or less, right? Not all identical, because every case is an individual basis. Not all of them are beating their spouses like he was. But petitioners have succeeded in showing that their privacy and safety concerns, okay, so the gangbanger alien enemies who've been identified by our government, who deserves the presumption, the benefit of the doubt, outweigh our presumptive and substantial interest in learning their identities. Okay, so because it could be, people could be mean to them, like we are to Kilmar, because we don't like illegals in our country beating our citizens, and then our own FBI letting them run free. We're pretty sick and tired of that. So we don't really think that they do have privacy rights. They're criminals in the country, and the safety concerns outweigh the public's right and substantial interest in their identities. This is a judge who just gave illegal terrorist aliens more rights and privileges than American citizens. There's a presumption that we get to know their names. That's the default rule. He overrode it. He admitted, he wrote it right there. Now, the first factor supports the granting of the motion. He says they don't seek to proceed under pseudonyms merely to avoid the annoyance and criticism. Yeah, right. He says, for instance, they allege that it contains details of their asylum claims, like the abuse and the danger they faced in Venezuela at the hands of the political leaders or paramilitary groups. Okay, that's in Venezuela. Now, that information is confidential, as they note. Federal immigration regulations say this. Oh, okay, so I got it. So as long as they apply for asylum, part of the record when they file is confidential. And so therefore, what can happen now is they can proceed pseudo-anonymously, because if you can, he's conflating two different things, right? This is not an asylum case, but because in their asylum case, they made some ridiculous claims like they all do about pupusas, it's an attack, gay, whatever. It's all made up nonsense. And we don't care anyways, by the way. That's their problem in their own countries. They can deal with it down there. But this is, so as long, right, this is not an asylum case that Judge Boasberg is handling right now. This is a fake habeas petition that he has no jurisdiction over at all. But he's saying, well, at one point in another claim, in another manila file folder somewhere else, they filed a petition, an application for asylum. And in that, there's confidential information. And so I can bootstrap that over here, and that supports pseudonymity. Now, the second factor, it's such a joke. The second factor tips the same way. As petitioners and their next friends clearly seek to avoid retaliatory physical or mental harm. You think you could do this for any of the J6ers, for example? Like, why didn't the J6ers get allowed to proceed pseudo-anonymously? How come they didn't do that? Yeah. Given the claims in the asylum applications, public identification of these individuals could subject them or their families to retaliatory violence or persecution. Look, okay, their families might be harmed by you. The judge is presuming that you're a criminal, that all of Americans are just going to be so violent and mad that they're protecting these gangbangers that they can proceed anonymously. But no one else gets that privilege. No one else gets to do that. To claim, I have a presumption of innocence in America, okay? Until you present some more evidence, I don't want my mugshot posted anywhere. I don't want my names posted anywhere until I'm convicted. Do you get that right? Of course you don't. Now, as Homeland recognizes, the confidentiality regulations are of utmost importance in protecting blah, blah, blah. So he goes and cherry picks some stuff that he can say, see, in other parts of immigration, we can do things confidentially. So petitioners do not address the third factor, the age, because they're all old dudes probably. So the court will assume that it weighs against pseudonymity. saying there is, in any event, no indication that they're minors. Okay, so they don't win that one. The fourth factor, so the second factor he also gives them, right? So retaliatory violence, and it's got some precedent in other immigration components. The fourth factor weighs against anonymity as well. It says typically anonymous litigation is more acceptable when the defendant is a governmental body because they don't share the concerns about reputation and more. And here, the factor tips in favor of disclosure. Okay, so he's like giving us the four factors: two in favor of an anonymity, one kind of against anonymity, this one in favor of disclosure. So we've got like two over here, one kind of in the middle. And fifth and finally, they say the government would suffer no risk of unfairness. So there you go. First, second, and fifth weigh in favor. Terrorist gangbangers can now proceed anonymously. See if you'd like to proceed anonymously anytime that you're accused of a crime. And by the way, you have the presumption of innocence that attaches to that. And you're an American citizen. Say that you don't want your name showing up on any arrest records or any arrest logs anywhere when you're being processed by the government at all. Even a civil claim. Say you don't want your name in an order of protection. Say, you know what, I don't want my name in my divorce records. Right? You got to fight for that. So this judge grants all these terrorists anonymity, says fifth and finally, no risk of harm because it doesn't matter to us. The factor does not require such disclosure because the government's not going to be harmed if we don't know his ID or any of these people's IDs. So that tally is in favor of the gangbangers, says Judge Boasberg and his abortion-loving wife and his, I presume, illegal aligned daughter, right, who are all in this industry and this grift, accords with the court's prior grant of allowing them to proceed anonymously. So the court now says you can file under pseudonym. It is granted. So we can't know who these are because if we know who they are, we'll identify a bunch more wife-beating Kilmars, and they don't want that. All parties shall use pseudonyms listed in the complaint in all documents, and within 14 days, petitioners and their next friends must file a sealed declaration containing their real names and residential addresses. So we don't even know if they're real people at this point. Judge is like, well, what are their real names and where do they live? What a joke, okay? Are they even actual people? How do you know? We can't know. The judge will know. The DOJ can't talk about it, right? The DOJ can't leak any of these things. So we have a bunch of anonymous class action, illegal alien terrorists who can just run roughshod over the entire system. Thanks to Judge Boasberg, one of the worst judges in Washington, D.C., who should be impeached immediately for allowing this perversion of our justice to occur. Now, he also wrote this one. He says, I'm also going to allow some discovery to happen here in this case. Says, now arrives the latest installment. He says, this is a complex and fast-moving lawsuit because you're making it move fast. Challenging Trump's invocation of the Alien Enemies Act. And what's interesting is he's using their full names here in this order. He says, Frangel Reyes Montoya and Andre Jose Hernandez Romero and 4 other Venezuelan men, maybe they're self-identifying, or are those their pseudonyms, were transferred by Trump to a CONCEALS. Now, claiming they are held there at the behest of the United States, they now seek to file their habeas claims for themselves and a class of other Venezuelan deportee gangbangers. Right? So habeas, by the way, should be filed in their petition of detention. They're in detention in CONCEALS, so there's a good argument that they can't file habeas claims since they're already afuera, right? They should have done that before. So now they're trying to reverse this and file it. And there's a bunch of terrorism claims on this too, right? Back from the terrorist cases. Like, can you file a habeas claim if we've sent you to some foreign detention site? Like, we don't really have control over you. You're not in America anymore. So can you really file that? The necessary threshold question is whether they are in custody. This is going to be the big battle here over constructive custody. Does Trump control CONCEALS even though he doesn't control CONCEALS? The court believes discovery could aid in our analysis, just like over in Judge Zenas rhymes with. Now, the federal habeas statute extends to others any prisoner who is, quote, in custody, right? That's the argument. Well, Bush was saying, oh, they're not kind of really in custody in Guantanamo. It's kind of a foreign site, and, it's not really in custody of us. Or under by color of authority of the United States, right? So Trump did this one further and said, okay, not Gitmo. We're just going to send them to CONCEALS. Like, we have no color of authority over that. Saying, while custody is thus central to jurisdiction, as the Supreme Court said, which is why this is hilarious that this judge is even writing this, because the Supreme Court said, you have no jurisdiction, judge. Should be brought in Texas. Courts have, in keeping with the broad statutory language, have very liberally construed that. Yeah, no kidding. Saying, here, in particular, it has long been true that the use of habeas has not been restricted to situations where there's actual physical custody. The Supreme Court, let's see, has, for instance, found habeas jurisdiction where a petitioner is free on parole, but remains subject to restraints imposed by officials, like when they're awaiting trial. Like, you've got control over the person because they're on an ankle monitor, okay? That's not what we're talking about in America. Like, you're on an ankle monitor in America. Here, courts have also, and that was looks like a Boston case. Now, courts have also recognized that habeas lies where a petitioner is imprisoned by a private party, but that is at the behest of the U.S. government, which is an 1888 case, okay, when somebody was the captain of a steamship. So government arrests him, captain of the steamship says, I'll throw you in the brig. Guy sues, said, he threw me in the brig. I bring a habeas petition, let me out of the brig. Government said, no, we don't have control of him. The steamship captain does. Government says, well, you do. He's holding him for you in America under American law. Now, so again, here's another one. Same one with the private prison, right? Same thing there. Like, the government can't hand you off to a private prison in the United States after you've been convicted of a United States law and then say, we're not in control of you because Walmart Prisons R Us is in control of you. Was imprisoned in one jurisdiction, another. And finally, like, none of these are on point. Thank you for this terrible references list, Judge. And most relevant for present purposes, one court in this district has held that federal habeas was possible, indeed likely. Here you go. Where a U.S. citizen was held abroad in a Saudi Arabian prison at the behest of U.S. authorities. That looks like that was a Bush case, right? 2004. So a terrorist case, U.S. citizens picked up, they throw him in Saudi Arabia. He files a petition. They said, no, government says, no, he's in Saudi Arabia. They said, no, but he's a legal detainee under a, act of war or something. But I don't know what this is. It sounds like this case might be dicta, which is why this judge is pulling it out of his booty and says, was possible, indeed likely, right? Because they really probably didn't get to that. It's probably mooted by some other issue in the case. But the organization principle for such disparate situations, writes Judge Boasberg, is the concept of constructive custody, right? Because Trump doesn't have any, like, physical control over CONCEALS, obviously, right? He's got no real contractual control as far as we know. But does he have some other type of levers that he can use, knobs he can twist in order to get stuff done down there? Now, according to one leading formulation, writes Boasberg, constructive custody exists where the imprisoning sovereign, in this case Bukele, is the agent of the respondent, right? Is Bukele an agent of Trump? The prisoner's liberty is restrained by the parole conditions, or the prisoner can point to some continuing collateral disability, which is the result of the respondent's actions. Now, in another case, the Supreme Court explained that the state holding the prisoner in immediate confinement acts as agent for a state with a detainer against that individual, such that the prisoner can bring a habeas action in the latter jurisdiction. Yeah, but I think the situation here is that the United States does not have a detainer on the person, right? Kilmar's gone. Like, we don't want him. We don't have a detainer on him. In the Saudi Arabia case, that was a U.S. citizen that we wanted in custody, right? That was actually a U.S. citizen in that case. So, like, all of these cases are distinguishable. They're all really terrible cases, which is why this judge is such a terrible judge who should be removed. You can see everyone you can distinguish. You say, okay, he was free on parole. Okay, so is this U.S. citizen? Great. And he was restrained by U.S. officials. This other person was a steamboat ship. Great. Another U.S. citizen obtained on behalf of the U.S. government by somebody in the United States. Okay, great. All of it's distinguishable. This one, a U.S. citizen. Great. All of these people are not citizens. First of all, that's the biggest distinction. And number two, the U.S. citizen was being held. Saudi Arabia was acting as an agent, right? If you want to go that far, to say they were holding him on behalf of the United States because we were going to deal with him in turn. But that's not what's happening here. We wanted Kilmar gone. We don't want anything to do with him ever again. He's not coming back into this country ever again. Now, as a result, here, right, CONCEALS is not an agent, and there is no ongoing detainer. So why would he be able to bring a habeas action? It's all done. As a result, when a respondent works through an intermediary, they can bring a petition against the respondent. So they're allowed, even if jailed by foreign agents. Bukele is not a foreign agent holding a citizen on our behalf. He's not. So he says, we're going to say you may be in custody under the color of law, under the authority of the United States. This is such a stretch. It's pathetic. Likewise, custody in violation of the Constitution or laws may also establish habeas. To be sure, actions of U.S. officials against non-citizens abroad will implicate federal rights only in exceptional circumstances, right? Including habeas only in exceptional circumstances. This judge is like crazy. He cites this 1950. He says, like, I know, like, I really can't do this. Like, this has to be absolutely exceptional. Boumediene versus Bush, Johnson versus Eisentrager, two different Supreme Court cases, says, you're going to go out and you're going to drape the great power of American citizenship and privilege over non-citizens in foreign affairs. What? You can't do that. There is little reason to think that Congress intended geographical coverage of habeas, the statute, to vary depending on the detainee's citizenship, citing another case. Now, he added the emphasis, okay? So this judge, again, is cherry picking some law. He added the underline there and is shoving it in. He says, these people are resident aliens who assert that they have been removed from the United States under an illegal proclamation, denied any opportunity to challenge that removal, which is fake. I mean, they're in court challenging it right now. Many of them, by the way, never got moved, right? Like the JGG and these people. So yeah, there are people that were removed, and the judge cited them at the top of this, but there were others that were not removed, okay? And they sued, they got notice, and they got opportunity to challenge it. They did challenge it, and they were not deported. The others, this is all after the fact, okay? Sorry that you woke up in CCOT and you're like, dang it, I should have hired a lawyer real quick, shouldn't I? Man, I was sitting right next to you. That guy got one. That guy got one. Why didn't I do that? I just slept in that morning. Okay, that's your problem. You don't get, the game's over. You don't get to come back and put points on the scoreboard. Transferred by U.S. authorities under a contract, right? This is the big question. He's going to say, is there a contract here? Those claims, if borne out, would show that they violated federal law and their due process rights because they're illegal gangbangers. They have more rights than you. In such a case, the government's use of a foreign intermediary would not alone necessarily defeat habeas, or shield its actions from judicial scrutiny. We've already said you can't team up with foreign agents to undermine the constitutional rights of citizens in America, Judge. Rather, when the United States works through foreign officials to detain rights holders, Kilmar's not a rights holder. Federal habeas may be available. This judge is like really trying to make this fit. Now, given that habeas jurisdiction can lie when the detainees are in constructive custody, the question from the judge is, does jurisdiction, whether it does lie here? As indicated, they say, Trump is paying El Salvador millions, and we need to know whether that's true or not. So this opportunity to hold them, Trump has even stated, offered the United States the ability to outsource part of its system, right? So the judge is now going to Trump statements and saying their support that maybe the detention in CCOT is being done by the United States. Now, some questions remain about the precise nature of this confinement. The judge writes, the court will accordingly authorize discovery. He's calling it jurisdictional discovery to somehow give him continued power over this case, even though the Supreme Court took it from him in their order that he's completely violating in multiple ways. Whether petitioners are in actual or constructive custody, and the inquiry should include the following, right? So they can dig into this. Were these gangbangers detained at the behest of U.S. officials? Whether their ongoing detention is at the direction of the United States, whether they are being detained and whether they have an opportunity to challenge their rights in the United States. And they want to give them now, like this judge is trying to create an opening, a path for them to create habeas filings from CCOT, right? So that's like going to be extending his jurisdiction over the whole prison. So then everybody after the fact who had a bad deportation experience can now petition to get back into the United States. This man, this judge, is a terrible, terrible steward of the law, and much worse. Such discovery may very well implicate matters of the most delicate diplomacy, but he doesn't care. He's going to crap all over it. Courts frequently allow discovery into whether they can exercise jurisdiction. And so he has no jurisdiction. The Supreme Court already said so. You don't have it. But I'm going to allow discovery on it. And then he also issued contempt, held Trump in contempt, and said that he can use the contempt power to force compliance with his underlying order over which he has no jurisdiction. I don't know where Congress is on this, man, but they should wake up. They do so even in other situations involving potentially complex and sensitive discovery burdens on defendants. Courts have authorized discovery into whether a government official can claim qualified immunity. That's with immunity. Oh my gosh. Having concluded that they have made an adequate showing to justify further invasion, it will follow well-established practice. It's not well-established, Judge. You just said it. You just explained. All of this is done in exceptional cases, which is why you're doing it. As explained at the conclusion of yesterday's hearing, court therefore orders the following. By May 9th, Trump shall submit any declarations they wish to provide about whether the United States has constructive custody over CCOT, over all the deported gangbangers. By May 12th, the gangbangers shall submit to the court notice whether they wish to seek jurisdictional discovery. Of course they're going to. And if so, what do you want me to order you get? And by May 14th, respondents Trump shall submit any response to their discovery proposal. So Boasberg, one of the worst judges of all time, who is absolutely weaponizing his entire bench at this very moment. Supreme Court in its order was clear as day. This is a core habeas claim. Core habeas claims for these petitioners need to be brought in another location. He's finding manipulative ways to keep this case and to continue to turn the knife into the American people. And now, not only is he granting illegal alien Tren de Aragua gangbangers pseudo-anonymity, but he's also now allowing discovery to proceed so that basically everybody down there can file claims as well, right? And all of the class can be protected and in Judge Boasberg's preference brought back to the system. So we've got Tom Homan, who is responding to a lot of this, the Boasberg orders and more, saying that these sanctuary cities and the people who are facilitating this continual invasion or re-invasion of the country by the judiciary will be dealt with. Here was Tom Homan explaining. 1 second, let's audio correct this puppy right here.
So far.
Well over 100,000. I mean, I looked at the ICE arrests.
We want to pick those numbers up. 100,000 is a good start. We got a lot of judges in the way posting speed bumps. But once we get the processes dialed in, we expect those numbers to go up, up, up.
You're over 100,000 now.
Yeah.
So you wanted to take the worst first. Have you gone through the worst?
No, we got a long ways to go.
Well, who else is left?
Well, when we
All the
started
criminals
this thing, it's just shy of 700,000 illegal aliens in this country with a criminal conviction or pending criminal charges. So we got a lot of work to do. I looked at the numbers the other day, just yesterday. ICE interior enforcement arrests are just over 75,000, which is 3 times more than Biden did in the same time frame when he was president. So ICE is making a lot of arrests, but there's more work to do. And actually, we had a series of meetings this past week. We're going to increase the number of the operation teams. We're going to increase worksite enforcement because sanctuary cities policy. What we're going to do with sanctuary cities, we're going to flood the zone. So if one agent can't arrest one bad guy in the jail, and they choose to release him in the community, it means I can send a whole team to look for him. So in sanctuary cities, we're going to flood the zones with agents. If we can't take them in the jail like we should, the safety and security of a jail, then we'll go to the community and find them. And that takes a lot of people. So if we can't arrest them in the jail, we'll arrest them in the community. If we can't find them in the community, we'll arrest them at the work site. We're going to increase work site investigations too. Less agents in the jail means more agents in the communities, more agents in the work site. Let us in the jail. Let us arrest a public safety threat and in the security and safety of a jail. Releasing a public safety threat back in the community It's just foolish. It increases the threat of public safety. So we're going to do what we got to do to get these people off the street. I wish they let us in the jail. It'll be a lot easier, a lot more efficient, and a hell of a lot more safe.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to seeing some of the initial resistance start to come crumbling down. And this is a game of attrition, no doubt about it. And once the judges like Backdoor Dugan start to have repercussions coming their way, and Congress grows a pair and stops people like Judge Boasberg, who have no jurisdiction by order of the Supreme Court, why are they not hammering that every single day from the Republican Party? They keep saying, the Democrats are good at this. Trump's violating the Supreme Court to facilitate the return of Abrego. Every day, like broken records. Where are the Republicans saying Judge Boasberg is in violation of the Supreme Court? He has no jurisdiction at all. He's ordering this stuff to happen. He should be impeached. They may not get it done completely, but they should bring the articles and get it through the House and make it hurt for him in terms of political consequences for his unlawful and egregious behavior. All right, so we got that. Now, let's talk about this assassin, because this is pretty interesting situation coming from the U.S. Attorney's Office. A would-be assassin canceled the plot at the last minute. Sounds like things could have been very bad. The DOJ released this, said they indicted this dude. You can see he was a Bay State resident charged in an alleged attempt to assassinate a cabinet member nominee at the U.S. Capitol. And the indictment has now dropped. It's going against this guy called Ryan Michael English. They haven't officially posted it, but it was making its way through the courts, was charged in a 2-count indictment filed in Washington, D.C. Attempted assassination of a cabinet member nominee and carrying a dangerous weapon onto the grounds of the U.S. Capitol building. The charges are related to a January 27th alleged attempt to take a knife and 2 improvised Molotov cocktails into the building for the purposes of attacking a presidential cabinet nominee. And so I guess the question would be, who was testifying that day on January 27th? Somebody was there. Now, the charges were announced by U.S. Attorney Ed Martin and Thomas Manger, who's in custody against this guy, had an initial court appearance this afternoon. All right, so the docs will be coming out. English, a.k.a. Riley, is charged with carrying a dangerous weapon or incendiary device on the grounds of the Capitol and unlawful possession of an incendiary device. Strange case. According to the charging documents, on January 27th at about 3:12 p.m., English approached a U.S. Capitol police officer near the south door of the Capitol building, and he stated to the officer, "I'd like to turn myself in." Cop says, "What? For what?" English further admitted to possessing a knife and 2 Molotov cocktails. "I'm here to take out Hegseth." Officers searched English and recovered a folding knife, as well as 2 improvised incendiary devices from inside the pockets of his jacket. The devices were constructed of 50-millimeter bottles of vodka with a gray cloth affixed to its top. Police recovered a green lighter from another pocket. Now, during the search, English allegedly confessed to being at the Capitol to eliminate a presidential nominee who was testifying before the U.S. Senate on that day. Police recovered a note to a family member in the pocket that said, in part, "This is terrible, but I can't do nothing while Nazis eliminate my sisters. I'm so sorry for lying and plotting and lying." English admitted to traveling to the District of Columbia with the intention of eliminating a government official or burning down a think tank based in Washington, D.C. The case is being investigated by the U.S. Capitol Police, is being prosecuted by the U.S. Assistant Attorney. And so, very interesting. You know, stuff like that happens, I think, a little bit more often than we think. Remember, there was a similar situation with another young man who was going to go and take out Kavanaugh and then called the cops like, "I'm outside Kavanaugh's home and something's off. This is going to be bad." Has a certain Manchurian candidate vibe to it and is strange. So is he programmed and then called it off? Or did he just have a conscience that popped up at the final minute? If it did, why would you turn yourself in? Like, if you're like, I'm just not going to do it. Why don't you just leave and don't do it? Is it because you have this compulsion? Are you being driven by some force, by some unstoppable thing in your brain? You can't stop yourself. So you have to turn yourself in as the only way to prevent the atrocity from happening. Very strange. And we're looking this up. Who testified for Trump nominee on January 27th, 2025 in the Senate? Who testified? So who was that? Yeah, why don't you just go home? There's no real reason you'd want to go and eliminate either Scott Bessent or Pete Hegseth, who both testified on that day. Actually, Hegseth was confirmed on that day. On the 27th, he was confirmed. So I'm not sure who testified or when. This is not giving me the good answers. All right. Anyway, so probably somebody along those lines. All right. So anyways, so that happened. Now, things are getting spicy over there in DC. No doubt about it. U.S. Attorney in D.C., Ed Martin, got violently attacked and spit on by a lunatic lefty. Here is what happened on the streets of D.C.
Good. And so we need to get really focused. How you doing? Oh, whoa.
You are a disgusting man.
Oh. That's right.
What a psychopath. All right, so one more time. This is U.S. Attorney Ed Martin, and she came up. She was screaming.
And so we need to get really focused. How you doing? Oh,
all right,
whoa.
that's assault. Yeah,
You are
that's
a disgusting man.
felony assault. Did she say he's a disgusting man? Can't tell if that was an armpit full of hair or not. But anyway, so that happened. That is a violent assault, and that is from a very unwell psychopath lunatic whose face is very clear on camera right there. So hopefully all of the Capitol Police, Secret Service, oh God, it was a big, disgusting one too. What a disgusting person. And that dog got yanked around too. There should be some animal abuse charges too. Look at that right there, that poor dog. Look, what are you doing with psycho owner? Somebody please rescue me. Where's PETA? Okay. Somebody come rescue that dog from that psycho lunatic. And they cut away from that. So Ed Martin, of course, is an American hero taking violent, probably, I don't want to say it, but who knows what's in that spit. I'm sure he's, very healthy. His immune system is going to be able to retract any of that disgusting liberal bacteria and viral infection, fungal, but it's still a risk. And we wish him well and a speedy recovery after that attack. Now, he said he's okay. And this is one reason Ed Martin posted this. He says, "This is among the many reasons that I wear that great coat." Shout out to Ed. Spitting on someone. Disgusting people, just through and through, inside and out. Now, Ed Martin is going to be taking up on a new position. He says, according to the President of the United States, Ed Martin has done an amazing job as interim U.S. Attorney. It's true. And he's going to be moving to the Department of Justice as the new director of the Weaponization Working Group. Oh, you guys wanted to get rid of Ed Martin? Oh, here you go. He's going to run a whole division now. You're welcome. Associate Deputy Attorney General and Pardon Attorney. And he's going to pardon all the people too. So eat it. Now, in these highly important roles, Ed will make sure we finally investigate the weaponization of our government under the Biden regime and provide much needed justice for its victims. Congratulations, Ed. Definitely congratulations to Ed. And that's going to be a lot of fun. So hopefully Tom Tillis gets on that investigation list because it looks like he's got some fraudulent stuff with his properties and his brother and a dead sibling or dead relative. Trump also said, in addition to Ed Martin getting shifted We also got Judge Janine Piro. We saw this at the tail end of the show yesterday, but here Trump said, I'm pleased to announce that Janine Piro, judge, will be appointed interim U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. Janine was Assistant DA for Westchester, County Judge. She was a powerful crusader, highly rated show. She's in a class by herself. Congratulations to Janine Piro. That's going to be fun too. So lots of stuff happening, lots of excitement, and we can see Fox News is bidding farewell to Judge Janine Piro. Here's what that sounded like from Brett Baer.
Here are some other headlines tonight, breaking just minutes ago. One of the co-hosts of The Five, Judge Janine Piro, will be appointed interim United States Attorney for the District of Columbia. President Trump announced that on Truth Social just moments ago. Janine was Assistant District Attorney for Westchester County, New York, and then went on to serve as County Judge and District Attorney, where she was the first woman ever to be elected to those positions. She will be leaving Fox to take this position, and we obviously wish her well.
All right, so congrats to Judge Janine. Congrats to Ed Martin. And we pray for speedy recovery for that violent spitting attack. And we do hope that that woman is arrested and charged with crimes for felony assault of a public official. And hopefully she's also taught some manners about behaving like an adult in public. All right, so that is what's happening on the Capitol. Let's talk about Fanny Willis. Yeah, we'll go to Fanny. We'll hit some Fanny business while we're here. Fanny Willis busted lying again. I know it's a repeat thing here. You'd think she'd learn her lesson, but she doesn't, because she's the biggest Fanny in Georgia, Madam DA. No one can tell her what to do. So this is a new report that came over from the Washington Free Beacon. They got their hands on some new audio recordings. You can see down here. We'll listen in on it, but we'll also hit some highlights on this letter that they've also released here. It's an older letter, but it is a letter that's necessary to exposing the Fanny lie that is now coming out. And Fanny is under a lot of scrutiny right now. Got subpoenas to turn over documents. House is sniffing around her office, and Nathan Wade is still living large. I think he's still probably traveling around on cruises, living lavish off that 700 G's he took. But here is what this story tells us about Fanny's lie. This is a big problem for her, okay? It ended up in her inbox the afternoon of November 16, 2021. It's going to be that letter. It was a legal notice from an attorney who was representing this woman called Amanda Timson, a former member of Willis's executive staff, worked together with him, and was blowing the whistle on her office for mishandling those federal funds. Because Fanny likes to live lavish. She likes Grey Goose after all. Now, Willis, the 8-page letter stated, had violated a slew of whistleblower protection laws. She reassigned Timson. So Timson got basically attacked, retaliated against, and then got a lawyer, sent the letter. She was going to serve as a glorified file clerk following a brief meeting where the DA refused to hear her allegations, okay? She goes from executive staff to now she just opens the mail. Timson believed she had grounds for a lawsuit against Willis, but was willing to drop the matter as long as there was a modest severance package and you gave me a letter of recommendation. Okay, I'll drop all this, but you got to get me landed somewhere else. But Willis had other ideas. She said, "We're absolutely not settling this claim." She wrote to her deputy chief operating officer, called Dexter Bond, and legal counsel Don Geary at 7:14 that evening. Nearly 2 hours later at 8:56, she sent another email to Bond and Geary, directing them to hop on a conference call with the county attorney. She wrote, "So much of the letter is inaccurate, according to records obtained by the Washington Free Beacon." Now, Willis later testified during a depo in November 2024 that she hardly even skimmed the first two paragraphs of the letter, right? So the letter comes in, and just to show you kind of what we're dealing with, this letter comes in November 16th over to Big Fanny, and she said, "I didn't even pay any attention to it at all," right? I didn't hardly read it. No, you didn't. You had multiple emails. You had a conference call. You had all these things. Here's what it sounded like. Hey, Big Fanny. Yeah, guess what? You're in big trouble. This law firm represents Amanda Timson with respect to the decision to demote her. She used to be a program manager, and now she's a file clerk. All right, now file clerk is we love our file clerks here. but like nobody wants to really file documents. I mean, like a couple people like on the planet do. They're like amazing at it. But most people are like, I hate filing things. Like no one wants to file anything. It sucks. For nearly 3 years, Miss Timson has been a dedicated, loyal employee who performed her job exceptionally well. Oh my gosh, we got a typo here. For nearly 3 years, Timson has been a dedicated, loyal employee who performed her exceptionally well. Despite this fact, FCDA has retaliated against her for protected whistleblowing activities when she repeatedly complained about the misuse of your funds, Fanny. Federal grant funds. She was managing these programs, and you guys were spending this money all over the place. So then she made it known, and you demoted her. She was denied the reasonable accommodation previously granted to her work remotely 2 to 3 days per week. And it was the same exact job. You violated her ADA rights too. Now, she's originally from Compton, LA, West Side, is an expert on gang prevention and intervention. Yeah. Prior to joining this, she worked with the city of LA, with the mayor's office, and she's done a bunch of stuff. Very experienced in her field. A lot of people say she's awesome. This Keith dude said she's great. Lieutenant David said she's awesome. Dr. Marie says she's amazing, and more. And then on December 26th, she joined your administration, and she was making $74,000 a year. And her primary responsibilities were to oversee $500,000 in the program. But then she joined the current division and tried to find ways to spend the money wisely. And then she caught a whiff of Big Fanny. Miss Timson became concerned about how Fulton County was going to utilize the funds. Nevertheless, she continued to try to find ways to utilize the funds. She's like, well, we can't spend this money. We should give it back. They said, oh, no, we're spending it. For example, she attempted to create sub-awardees or strategic program partnerships with outside organizations to utilize the funds for their actual purposes. But Miss Timson got substantial pushback from the Fulton lawyers, who told Timson that he wanted them to utilize the funds for purposes completely unrelated to the grant. Like, you can use this money to go reduce drugs. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to reduce drugs by buying us swag, sweaters, shirts, cups, Mac computers, furniture, travel, training expenses, team outings. Like, it's all for us because we're the ones who are going to reduce the drugs so we can use it for whatever we want because we're prosecutors, you know. No, the money's to reduce drugs in this, like in the, like drug addicts, like to, you know, so they don't die. Well, one way they're not going to die is if I fly first class. They'll be happy to know I'm cleaning up the streets. They're like, all right, not exactly. Now, during staff meetings, Timson repeatedly expressed concerns to Mr. Kufi about the misuse of the grant funds. She brought it up multiple times, March 12th, April 6th, April 22nd, May 5th, June 3rd. Whenever she did so, Mr. Kufi responded by telling her, you know what? Why don't you just discuss this one-on-one with me? Don't talk about it in front of everybody else because I want a new iPad. Former community liaisons and others witnessed Timson repeatedly raising these concerns. They attach them. Yeah, no, she brought it up always. When Timson did not meet with Mr. Kufi individually, he did not seem to care. He didn't care. He's like, oh, great. You know, come talk to me personally if you have a problem with it. She didn't come talk to him. He's like, great, we're going to continue to use it. Solve that one. On May 3rd, Miss Timson emailed you, Big Fanny, requesting to schedule a meeting to discuss her concerns about the theft of the funds, but you ignored her, obviously. Attached is the email. She also had previously attempted to meet with you on April 8th, but those requests were also ignored. She repeated her concerns about this multiple times to many people. Now, her complaints to Kufi and others were whistleblowing activities, and she was protected against retaliation. She was assigned to do a bunch of things, but notwithstanding the requirement, she was made to do things that she was not supposed to be doing or not required to do. So then she began asking Kufi probing questions about the budget. She starts getting reassigned to other things. How are you going to go about selecting participants for this money? He got upset. He was frustrated. Why are you asking me these questions about who's going to get this money? Instead of addressing the concerns, he removed her from the program. Instead, he reassigned the responsibility to other people who didn't ask so many questions. Now, on June 30th, 2021, he again retaliated against her, put her on a PDP. Oh, dang. Performance development plan. You're asking too many questions here. You're on notice. Prior to this, Mr. Kufi had never counseled, warned, or anything. The plan was plainly an act of retaliation because she wouldn't shut up for allegedly not following her, quote, chain of command, which is a thinly veiled attempt to recharacterize her whistleblowing as some sort of a policy violation. And he also criticized her appearance. He said, you know, those nose rings are pretty disgusting. And she says, I'm actually Ghanaian. So that's why I have it. He says, maybe you should get rid of your visible tattoos too, your facial piercings and your visible tattoos. She's like, I'm from Ghana, bigot, which he suggested were gang related because she's from Compton. Oh, coming from Fanny's office. Wow, that's racist. Is this a white dude? Who is this dude? Mr. Kufi. I don't know. Kind of sounds white. I don't know. So I don't know if he's being racist against her for her visible tattoo and facial piercing since she's a gang member from Compton. Well, that's bizarre. I don't know why there's so much racism emanating out of Fanny's office towards black people. I think. What's up? Although PDP was written on Dexter Bond's letterhead, when Timson contacted Bond and sent him a screenshot, he indicated he didn't send it. All right. So the dude who was supposed to write the performance improvement plan didn't actually write it. He said, wow, make me a physical copy. This is a problem, right? So that other racist in Fanny's office stole someone else's letterhead. That's like fraudulent abuse of authority, essentially. Yeah, I mean, if you sent a letter to a bank like that, yeah, on someone else's stolen letterhead and say, I approve this man and I lend this letter of credit to this person or whatever, yeah, that'd be a big problem. This is a real problem. Yeah, it might be a crime. A copy of Miss Timson's text exchange is attached. In mid-July 2021, after she discovered that many of the junior DA youth participants had not been selected according to the program criteria, right? This money is for these kids. They don't care. She expressed her concerns to Mr. Kufi, the fraudster. On July 8th, Mrs. Timson also contacted Kyra Banks, got a meeting scheduled with her to talk about the participants who got the money. Timson her complaint to management constituted whistleblowing activity. So then in July, Crystal Lunsford told Timson that Kufi had told her and others in the office, whoa. Kufi said, I'm going to fire that bee, referring to the whistleblower, and that he was planning to use her PDP as grounds to terminate her on August 4th. Already requested a temporary employee, so I'm getting rid of her. She keeps asking about my iPads. On July 26th, Timson then met with Dexter Bond and shared her concerns about the retaliation, saying all of this is illegal. He's violating the grant funds. It's all being used for unauthorized purposes. Bond reiterated, he says, look, I'm unaware of the existence of the PDP. I didn't write that. I didn't authorize it. And Kufi didn't follow the policy by issuing it. But all this is happening right under Fanny's nose. Miss Timson also told Bond that she felt she had grounds to sue based on retaliation and attempted wrongful termination. Shortly after mentioning a lawsuit, Timson was informed she had a meeting scheduled with you at 3 p.m. that day. Okay, so then she uses that L word. HR, Dexter Bond, he's like, you just said it. Crap. All right, I got to talk to Fanny. Despite months of failed attempts to secure a meeting with Fanny, soon as she says that word lawsuit, he's like, you got to talk to her. Calm her down. Now there's a serious concern. The moment she mentions lawsuit, boom, Fanny burst through the walls. Now, during Miss Timson's meeting with you, you immediately stated, Fanny, you said, I hear you, and your supervisor are like oil and water, she said. Now, you proceeded to tell her that the PDP Kufi attempted to initiate was null and void. He didn't follow the policy. You said, Fanny, to state that you were disappointed in Miss Timson's performance. You said, yeah, but your performance has not been good. A claim she's never heard from you before. And that effective immediately, Fanny told her to her face, she's being demoted to a file clerk position. Fanny's ruthless. So I'm going to sue you for allowing this to happen. She says, oh, Great. Let me give you another claim because she's such a smart lawyer. How about I just demote you and retaliate right now to your face? Requiring her to work in the office Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5 p.m., no work from home. The meeting lasted 3 minutes. You never gave her an opportunity to respond to her concerns about Kofi or the misuse of the grant pads. She didn't care. She went back over to her newer iPhone. She texted Kofi, who was on his new iPhone. Like, I love these new Animoji features. This is so fun. Here, turn yours on. Like morons. In follow-up emails between Mrs. Timson and July and others, you clarified. You said, we're not reducing her salary, right? Because then Fanny's like, she went and talked to a lawyer. Fanny's like, can I do that? Like, no. Oh, well, all right. How about I don't change her salary? Like, all right, I guess that's better. You were eliminating her previously granted ADA reasonable accommodation of working remotely 2 to 3 days per week. She's got severe asthma and the presence of mold in the building. Of course, there's mold in the building because it's Fanny's building. And the health risks that were associated with the COVID. You stated that Ms. Timson's new file clerk position could not be performed remotely, can't open mail over Zoom, despite the fact that a number of other similarly situated clerks actually are opening mail over Zoom. All these people, Bryant, Cassandra, Kella Lovejoy, Saquez, and Ebony, they all can work remotely, but not Timson, saying, you said to her, if you're unable to do your job for health reasons because you've got asthma, please take care of your health and go out on FMLA. Otherwise, beginning on 8/23, you need to report as instructed. Now, your decision to deny Timson the same opportunity as everyone else is a violation of the ADA and is retaliation. She submitted an intake questionnaire, and she also met with HR, who provided a detailed account of her complaints about Kofi's treatment of her. She also suggested to you, as a reasonable accommodation, I can just work from home and I can do e-filing. However, moments later, Tashika Fleming sent Timson an email saying, sorry, your laptop is being taken too. We have a lack of laptop inventory. Brutal. You're going to need to turn in your laptop. Fanny's a disaster. Timson suspected that you directed Fleming to take back her laptop so that she can't work from home. After Timson sent Fleming a text message with a side eye, Fleming confirmed her suspicions, says, my bad, I meant to call you. Fanny Willis told me to send you that. Oh, Fanny didn't tell him to say that she told him to send him that. On August 3rd, Timson submitted an amended intake questionnaire, adding a claim for denial of reasonable accommodations, and your decision to demote her, a highly experienced and qualified subject matter expert, is tantamount to constructive discharge. Although you did not reduce her compensation, because some lawyer said you can't do that, the demotion has already caused serious harm to her career. If she were to remain in this role, the damage would be irreparable. People would have serious misgivings about hiring a file clerk. Timson has, with no disrespect to file clerks, like we all start there. I filed a lot of crap, man. I was an intern for free for 2 years, filing everything. But I think I called myself a law clerk. But I was a file clerk, let's be real. Says, Ms. Timson has been diagnosed with anxiety disorder and has begun seeking a professional counselor bi-weekly, something she was never previously needed in her whole life. Fanny is causing emotional damage. Now, Ms. Timson is fully prepared to commence legal action against the FCDA for violating the anti-retaliation provisions and more. We believe that the judge and jury will look favorably on her claims and attack Fanny and find against Fanny. Notwithstanding the strength of her claim, we don't need to have this resolved in a lawsuit. She'll settle this with you, Big Fanny. Here's what she wants. 12 months salary, 75 G's, 12 months COBRA insurance, pay her a lump sum of 25 G's for damages, 5 G's for attorney's fees, mutually agreeable letter of recommendation so she can go work elsewhere, limit the information that's in these conversations to prospective employers, and mutual non-disparagement. And if you do that, here's what she's going to do. She'll resign. She'll withdraw her equal employment opportunity claim. She'll refrain from filing new claims. She'll give you guys a full release. She won't disparage you. She'll keep the terms of the settlement confidential. Just cut it. Please let me know whether you want to deal with this, at which time the offer will be withdrawn. All right. So a very nice recounting of here. And Fanny, here's what she's saying, right? Miss Gary, please speak with Mr. Bond about this. He wants you two to get on a conference call with our county attorney. So much of the letter is inaccurate. We are absolutely not settling this claim. And Fanny, remember, like she has the biggest signature I think you've ever seen. Like you would agree with this. You answer a lot of emails. You see a lot of emails. Have you ever seen an email signature that's like bigger than this in terms of font size? It's bigger than the whole header. Like this is the header of the email. Her signature is bigger because she is the biggest Fanny in Georgia. And don't you forget it. So she sent that and said, hey, I read everything. It's blah, blah, blah. I'm writing to follow up on my demand letter, and sent all of those in. And so Fanny, right, sent that. So that letter explains the details of that office conversation. Now, what happened was she went through a deposition. And after that, she said she hardly skimmed it. Yeah, right. Clearly she did. Saying she also then fired Timson in January 2022. She said she was fired because she was derelict in performing her job, and she posed a physical threat, okay, to high-ranking members of her administration. So it's like an insane claim. Timson says, absolutely ridiculous. I have asthma. I can't even throw a punch. And audio recordings obtained by Free Beacon show that the alleged threats of physical violence appear to be fabrications by Willis's deputy chief of staff called Epiphany Henry. The recordings, which are reported here for the first time, add to a growing body of evidence that Willis is running an office rife with dysfunction. Timson alleges in a lawsuit that Willis, after getting her letter, retaliated against her. Lawmakers in the House and the Senate, will listen to the audio, opened investigations into Timson's claims after the Free Beacon reported she had secretly recorded a private conversation with Willis. During that meeting, Timson informed Willis that the top aides are misappropriating the funds and said that Kufi had failed the administration. Willis says the allegations were incorrect, said she was an underling. I don't owe it to her. She's an underling. I don't owe it to her to answer any of her questions. She didn't deserve an explanation. Could be another major setback on this. Timson, of course, thinks she was set up to fail and says she never, ever threatened violence, and they all invented words. It's just not true. So here is the audio we can see. Voice of Amanda Timson on this recording.
But I feel like as far as that, like this meeting, I just need to know that, like, as hard as I will go for you, like, just, if nothing else, like, respect and honesty. That's it. Like, and don't throw me out to the wolves, because that's not for me. And it's hard for me in this space because I grew up in a way that if something happens like that, you fight back physically. You know what I mean? And so I get emotional because I'm like, I'm grown now.
Like, I want to fight, but I
am grown now.
So,
I cannot.
So to piggyback off of partially what Ms. Toole was saying, I think that would be good. You having your own space. I don't know if Ms. Toole, you can make a decision now, but you know, on that back wall, that one office is going to be vacant. That may be a good space for Ms. Timson, if you would like to be in that location.
Here's how Epiphany Henry later described her exchange, okay? So they say this is how she later described her exchange. So Epiphany, who is this woman speaking right here, then changed her story, and now Big Fanny came in and said, I need you to say this, so she did. Ms. Timson made comments during the staff meetings with myself and Deputy DA Toole that she wanted to violently attack her previous supervisor. Did you hear that? And that I'm from Compton. I don't know how to respond to emails. I be ready to fight. I want to punch him in the effing head. Did you hear her say anything like that? She said, when I get like attacked, I want to like physically get like, she said that, right? I want to physically get, but like, I'm grown now. Like I can't do that. So I'm like, I just don't want to be thrown by the wolves. I just get probably talking about getting emotional. Ms. Timson also expressed the same meaning that her previous supervisor made her feel like she felt as a child when the adults didn't believe her when certain things were being done to her. For the sake of her privacy and disclosure of personal events in her life, I'm choosing to not state the exact events that she disclosed. So they just lied. She didn't say, I want to punch him in the effing head in that audio recording. Nowhere even close to that. She did talk about having like a physical reaction to being attacked, which everybody does. And that's that fight or flight sensation, that adrenaline. Ah! And obviously she didn't attack anybody and wasn't going to attack anybody. She's got asthma, for crying out loud. So they just made it up and justified that to fire her. And so now the lawsuit is marching forward and Fanny is in big trouble. She's got subpoenas coming out her way. She's got lawsuits. April 12th court filing saying this is ongoing litigation. She's never been disciplined before. And Fanny's office is filled with liars. Now, Fanny's not alone. She's got some other lying prosecutors who are in on this. Here is another one of them. This is called Letitia James. Tish James on with MSNBC's Inside Jen Psaki. And here is what she said in response to her Tish being probed by the FBI and a grand jury being impaneled in Virginia.
I have to ask you, I mean, there were reports today that the Justice Department has launched a criminal investigation into real estate transactions that you're involved with. I'm not validating that in any way, but I wanted to just ask you if you've received a formal notice of that at this point.
No, not at all. These allegations, Jen, are baseless. They have been discredited, refuted. There was a letter that was prepared by my attorney.
It was terrible.
That was sent to Pam Bondi, the United States Attorney General. And it's unfortunate that President Trump publicly attacked me a few days ago. And as a result of that, he telegraphed to the Department of Justice and to FBI that I should be targeted. You see, this is nothing more than an extension of his revenge, his retribution, and he finally got up to the J's. And so I stand prepared to respond to these baseless attacks with facts. And we look forward, obviously, to further discussions with the Department of Justice or any other individual who leaked this material.
Okay, so I think the J's for James. Or is Jen Psaki also going to be concerned? And who leaking what material?
Or any other individual who leaked this material.
Leaked what material? The material of your fraudulent mortgage records? Nobody leaked anything there. That's all public record. People were looking into that. Bill Pulte was the person who got the identification on that, courtesy of whitecollarfraud.com and Steve Antar, who's been doing amazing digging on that. It's not Trump orchestrating this at all. It's actually bubbled up from someone on the internet called Sam. And the revenge tour was from their side. They used the prior 4 years to launch every single attack vector they possibly could muster against President Trump, and they all failed. And those attack vectors were illegal. Now they have to pay the price. So we also saw Tish was made very uncomfortable over in a town hall. Man calls out Big Tish James in New York. Here is what this American hero had to say to her.
Yes, my question is for Tish James. Will you apologize to President Trump for wasting millions of dollars and the state of New York for a witch trial? And how does it feel to know that you will be in prison for mortgage fraud?
Yeah!
How's it feel? How's it feel, Tish?
Yeah, Tish.
How's it feel, Tish? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. Trump 28, baby.
Amazing. So pretty funny. Tish's face didn't look too happy. That's not her right there. Oh, what's that going on, Tish? What's wrong? You know you're going to prison. You'll be right next to Diddy, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you inside. All right, so that's the Tish update. Let's do the Diddy update, since we just said she's going to be joining Diddy soon at some point, depending if Diddy gets convicted or not. Here we are on this one. An interesting development in jury selection. We thought we were going to be concluded today with the teams on both sides, the prosecutors and the defendants and the lawyers issuing their peremptory strikes to say, we want these jurors kicked off the panel. We thought we were going to get to an outcome today, but apparently not. The Diddy trial was delayed as a judge makes a shock ruling on jury selection. And we're going to go through this. Of course, the details are coming to us via Inner City Press, Matthew Russell Lee reporting, who was there on scene today. And here is what happened. We're back. Jury selection in the Diddy trial in the Southern District of New York. And here is what happened today. Everyone is waiting around. There's hustle and bustle afoot. And then the door bursts open. All rise. Please be seated. Judge takes the bench. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to back to the courtroom. Now, is there anything that we need to address before the peremptory challenges start? Prosecutor on Maureen Comey's team says, Your Honor, well, we looked at the records and juror 295 should be excluded. She sent an email to the jury office and she was talking about personal safety and stuff. And so if she's freaked, she's got to go. Judge says, you know what? I saw that email. You're right. She's out. And also, we had another juror, juror 146. We looked that person up and they've got a lawsuit against the city. They're suing New York. They didn't disclose that to us. They should have. We asked about it. And the defense says, okay, well, that's fine. But what about juror 131 then? Like, if you're going to nuke that juror, they liked 146. So like, wait, that's our guy. They said, like, if you're suing the government, like, you're like, okay, that's great. You don't like the government. Government sucks, right? Yes. And Diddy's being prosecuted by the government. They suck too. So we definitely want that juror. Juror 146, he's suing the city. Well, what? Well, what about juror 131? If you're going to get rid of that person, she worked at legal aid. Legal aid like represents women who are like giving, legal services to abuse people. The judge says, well, that's different. Okay. 146 is out. They're suing the city. That's not 131 though can stay in. Judge says, I propose we bring in on Monday the 6 alternates and the 3 remaining, or should we just do the strikes on Monday? Prosecutor says, Your Honor, well, we oppose doing the peremptory challenges on Monday. We want to start the case then. All right. Like, we want to get going on Monday. We don't want to delay this. So we oppose that. Well, all right. Why don't you guys confer with the other side about this and take some time? Says, I'll give you 5 minutes to do that. They break 5 minutes. Fast forward. We're back. Your Honor, says the defense. So just to be clear, to clarify this, you're saying we do all the strikes on Monday? Well, you proposed Monday. I don't know. You said they'd be in the courthouse. So I think, we just do it since they're in the courthouse. Defense says, yeah, I think that's right. So like juror 295, she decided that she didn't want to be on the case, right? We already lost one juror in the last 2 days. Like, so if we got to get him in and not give him time to think about it because they're ejecting themselves. So yeah, let's do it on Monday. I think we could do it in 10 to 15 minutes. So we bring him in Monday. If we lose someone over the weekend, then we have what we have on Monday. And then we can deal with, because we might lose people over the weekend. So we'll just bring him in on Monday and do our strikes on Monday. Prosecutor says, what? No, Your Honor, we strongly oppose this. Maureen Comey, she's mad. We'd be telling 43 people to come back not knowing if one said, I want off, right? Others might. I had a trial like that, Judge. It blocked the whole morning. So we can't get started. We want to get started on Monday. We're scheduled. We got our witnesses coming. Everything. So we'd still have to hear them, the judge says. Like, we have to hear them now anyways, so whether it's Monday or now. Well, if it's different if you're told you're on. Like, you can't get off if you're told you're on. The judge says, well, they wouldn't be told, right? They would be told you're in a group of 43, so you got to come in. Like, the judge is saying, well, I am. I'm telling them all, like, you're coming in. So, well, there's going to be a very long line, Your Honor. Like, will the jurors be stuck? Could they skip the line? Like, it's Monday. We're going to have, Mondays are busy. We're going to have other trials, a lot of stuff going on. The judge says, all right, fair question. Yeah. So like 43 people coming in, past security, all these things. All right, let's take a break, says the judge. Let me go figure out if I can talk to somebody. I'm going to go check with the jury department to see if we can give these people like special access. Can they come in the side door? Whatever. Combs, meanwhile, is sitting in court in a sweater, chatting with the newest attorney to the team, Nicole Westmoreland, who came from Fanny land down in Georgia. Who is another black female who got added to the team, presumably for that reason. Meanwhile, Agna Philo and Maureen Comey, the defense attorney and FBI director's daughter, Maureen, are talking. Now Xavier Donaldson is jumping in. Drum roll. Says, Judge comes out. All right, look, I talked to the jury department. We can get the 43 in early at 8:30 on Monday, and we can do the strikes at 9 a.m. Opening statements will be at 9:30 a.m. Everyone goes, yeah, right. You're going to do all that in an hour, 43 people in, and you're going to get your strikes done, and you're going to start. Comey says, Your Honor, I still object. That's ridiculous. Defense says, judge says, well, the defense says it's going to take 10 to 15 minutes. So I think we can do it. So we're going to do it that way. And Comey's, I can't believe this. Judge says, all right, Mr. Agnifilo, also, before we continue on, I'm going to deny the pseudonyms as to victim number 5. So victim 5 is not going to come in here using some acronym, right? So just to be clear, illegal alien, Tren de Aragua, MS-13 gangbangers can sue and have litigation under a pseudonym, according to Judge Boasberg in a separate case we're covering. But if you're a victim of a crime, you don't get to proceed pseudonymously, right? Just to be clear. And there's good reasons for that. Just like there's good reasons why you don't let illegal gangbangers proceed pseudo-anonymously. Now, what about the other issue? What about the other victim? Is that other victim going to come in? Yes or no? Your Honor, well, we still don't know. We'll keep the defense posted. That's big, man. Like, you might hear about domestic violence trials. This is a common thing where the victim doesn't show up to court. Happens all the time, especially in misdemeanors where there's no subpoenas for the victims. Happens a lot, right? You set the case for trial. You're prepared. Government doesn't have the victim, which is usually their only witness because the cops show up after the fact. Let's say it's a domestic violence situation, disorderly conduct in an apartment. Neighbor calls the cops. Cops come up, talk to the girlfriend. Girlfriend says, yeah, he threw a bowl or something at the wall. They say, oh, great, you're under arrest. Criminal damage, disorderly conduct, / domestic violence because you were in an argument with your significant other. Great. She doesn't come to court. The neighbor is not coming to court. And the neighbor didn't see anything, just kind of heard a sound. The defendant didn't make any admissions. The so-called victim didn't want the cops to come at all anyways. The cops talked her into becoming a victim. She's like, I just broke a bowl, whatever, not a big deal. And she doesn't show up to court. Then you set the case for trial. She doesn't show up. The cops can't say what happened. They didn't see anything. Neighbor didn't see anything. Victim's not there to say what happened. Defendant's not going to incriminate himself. Set it for trial. They got no case. Case is dismissed. Happens hundreds of times, probably every day. So can they do that here? What if all of Diddy's victims don't show up? Now, normally in a federal case like this or a felony case, like if it's a serious domestic violence case, not a broken bowl, but like a broken face, you're going to get a subpoena to come to court and you're going to get picked up maybe, right, if you don't. So as to the like the prosecutor is going to make you come to your trial, depending on the prosecutor. Now and depending on the case, the severity of the case. But in this case, like one of the victims might not be showing up. That's a big deal. Now, what about as to the exhibit objections? Prosecutor Johnson says, the photo of victim 1 is not more prejudicial than probative. So photo of victim 1 makes the victim 1 look very, very young. And they're fighting about whether we can see the photo. That one photo says, Your Honor, it suggests conduct with an underage person because she looks super young, but she's not. Victim 1 attended a party with the defendant 2 years ago, Your Honor, says the prosecution, before this photo even occurred, which was taken on May 19th, 2005. She signed with his record label back then, and a visual speaks volumes. We're not suggesting what Miss Shapiro said. In 2005, she was of age. So like she's like 18. She just looks like she's like 14 probably. Judge says, yeah, that's a good point. So I'm going to allow in that exhibit. So that's coming in. Not good for Diddy because jurors will look at that and be like, that she looks like she's like 12. Says, I'm going to allow in that exhibit. And what about the text messages? Does anybody have any case law on this? Can I admit these in? Defense says, no, Your Honor, I'm not sure of a hearsay exception for them. Like they can't come in. They're all hearsay. There should be an exception for them. They're not coming in. The judge says, well, what about the employee testimony? We'll do that on a case-by-case basis. Prosecutor says, well, what about Bruce of Bad Boy Records? It's within his scope of employment. And there are difficulties of promoting the first victim. And there's no indication that he was acting under Combs' authority, says the defense, so you can't bring that in. Mr. Cruz, it's presumed he was doing this for bad boy records. Judge says, okay, objection overruled. We'll admit that. Now, as to victim number 1, they have agreed not to cross-examine her about certain medical issues. Judge says, okay, thank you, defense. And on the rest, I'll have to hear the direct to see if the door is opened. And so the situation is that if the government opens the door, you can walk through it, Ms. Shapiro. If they ask a question, you can talk about it. They ask her about those medical things, then you can talk about it, okay? Says, yeah, well, it's relevant, Your Honor. We're going to take the position that there was mutual violence in their relationship, okay? There was hitting on both sides. She was beating him back. Says, and we are absolutely going to admit to domestic violence. But at what point does it become coercive? So what Diddy's strategy is to just say, yeah, these are misdemeanors. Like, yeah, no, he beat her, he hit her, it's battery, it's domestic violence, which has always been our point on this. Like, yeah, monstrous charges. They should have arrested him many times over, multiple times. They never did. So why is that? Right now, they're trying to bundle it all up into this RICO case for some strange reason. So they're going to admit it's domestic violence, which is the smart play, but it's not RICO. It's not trafficking of humans. But at what point does it become coercive? Well, they're not saying they're just saying it's violent. He's saying, right, yeah, we're saying it's relevant, but the judge says, okay, Ms. Johnson, any last words? Your Honor, we'll submit a letter on this and send that in further later. All right, anything else? Prosecutor, Your Honor, we intend to offer 2 cell phone videos and the corrected CNN footage. Okay, thank you for noting that. We'll deal with objections at the time. Anything else? Nothing else here? All right, we are adjourned. We'll see you back on Monday. We'll pick the final jurors, and we will then start with opening arguments, all things provided they go well. So that, again, courtesy of Matthew Russell Lee, Inner City Press. We're excited to start the trial in full next week to see where this one goes. It should be spicy, and we'll appreciate seeing you back here on that one. All right, now one final quick update on the day, and then it's going to be time to hear from you. Let's see what we got here from the Daily Mail. Joe Biden is struggling. Many people saying he's broke. He's not having his son sell $500,000 mucus paintings anymore. Not in the White House. The grift cannot continue anymore. And so what he's doing is trying this little rehabilitation tour, going on The View, doing interviews with the BBC to see if he can repair his image. And it's not going so well for him. In fact, Politico is reporting that he has hired a veteran Democratic operative to help defend his reputation, saying the Trump administration, meanwhile, is eyeing the release of the Her record, saying Biden is in reputation management mode, hiring a veteran campaign and comm strategist to help burnish his legacy at a time when many in his party want him to just leave. But he's going to remain engaged. His inner circle hired this dude called Chris Meager, former deputy press secretary and Defense Department spokesperson, to help him transition after this 100 days. They've worked with this person. This guy's worked with Booty and Big Gretch Rona, and they booked him onto The View on Thursday, which was pretty much a disaster. In fact, this is what the Daily Mail was saying about this, telling us that Joe was given a secret signal to stop answering questions. People don't really know what that was, wondering if it was a buzzer or a kick under the table. But Biden was asked about Democratic insiders, saying he'd suffered a sharp mental decline. And then suddenly he just says, oop, I've spoken enough. Questions about Jill. She sat next to her husband. Did she nudge him or kick him under the table? We don't really know. She angrily denied sequestering him during the Thursday appearance. He was previously seen with a bruise on his hand, on the same hand, left hand, sparking theories about whether he's getting infusions or what the heck is going on. The blood of children from Haiti. Is that what that is right there? That little bruise there? What is that? Previously spotted with the same bruising on the same hand. Bunch of clips from the people at The View that we don't really need to pay much attention to. But Jill's sudden interjection appeared rehearsed. She added in her retort that she was as infuriated by the books because nobody saw how hard Joe worked. And it was a weird exchange. She's like, he got up.
There have been a number of books
He got
that
up
have
every
come
day.
out, deeply sourced from Democratic sources that claim in your final year there was a dramatic decline in your cognitive abilities in the final year of your presidency. What is your response to these allegations, or are these sources wrong?
They are wrong. There's nothing to sustain that. Number one. Number two, you know, think of what we're left with. We're left with
That's obviously ridiculous. Okay, there are many sources. They're all writing books. Like Jake Tapper is coming out with his stupid book. He's going to have a ton of sources in there, and we all watched it. We watched it on the debate. We watched it in your performance. You're tripping over sandbags all over the place. Can't walk over stairs. I mean, there's plenty of evidence. So don't just like get rid of that in point one and move on.
the circumstance where we had an insurrection when I started. Not since the Civil War.
Okay, here it comes.
We had a circumstance where we were in a position that the pandemic, because of the incompetence of the last outfit, end up over 1 million people dying. And we're also in a situation where we found ourselves unable to deal with a lot of just basic issues, and which I won't go into in the interest of time. And so we went to work. And we got it done. And, you know, one of the things and
Alyssa, you know, one of the things I
Step
think
in,
is
Jill.
that the people who wrote those books were not in the White House with us.
Yeah, we know. And
How do you think it may?
I think many of them know the truth. We all saw the truth. Don't need to be in the White House. She goes on in the aftermath of that to talk about how he got up every day and he worked really hard and he had his bowl of ice cream every night after a job well done. Many stickers on the refrigerator. Great job, Joe. You brushed your teeth today. All right, so that's Joe and Jill having a hard time. And of course, the struggle will continue. Now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. If you're just joining us, we had a great stream on this lovely Friday. Thanks for joining us early. Mama is coming up into town, and so we're going to be spending the weekend hanging out and making meatballs. So we're getting prepped up for that. They'll be here this afternoon. So thanks for joining us early as they come. Now, we also, tomorrow, Membos, we're going to be live later in the day, and it's going to be a different stream. We're doing a Meatball Saturday stream. Mama G's coming in. We're going to make, I think, like 100 meatballs. We've got like 60 tomatoes, like 15 onions, and all this marinara, tons of stuff. So if you want to join us, come join us tomorrow. Membos probably be around 1 o'clock my time, 4 p.m. Eastern. So she's got an event in the morning. Then we'll fire up the cameras in the kitchen. We'll hang. We'll learn how to make Mama's meatballs, and they're the best meatballs on the planet. So it's going to be good. All right, so come check that out. Hopefully we see you. Thank you for accommodating the schedule change, and I hope your week was amazing. Now, if you're just joining us, quick recap. We talked about Boasberg, and this judge's orders are just getting more and more insane by the day. But now he is authorizing discovery to see if he can come up with some bizarre claim about constructive custody over the illegals who were deported. He also is allowing them to sue basically anonymously, right? Nobody can know who they are other than the judge and the DOJ, so that the gangbangers aren't scrutinized essentially by us. And we can then be prevented from identifying other Kilmar Abregos, which are decimating their entire political hoaxes. So that's a problem for them. We then talked about this assassin who turned himself in, got indicted, and the spit attack on our friend Ed Martin, who said he's not too perturbed about it because he wears his great raincoat for these reasons, since he's constantly dunking on the libs everywhere he goes. We checked in on that. We said shout out to Janine Piro, who's going over to work at the DOJ, and Ed Martin's getting a boost up to a weaponization department as well. Fani Willis busted lying. Her team basically made up this fake claim that Timson was a violent threat. All fake. We listened to the audio recording, and we read through Timson's letter that shows just how insane Fanny's office is, where even her own like deputies are committing fraud by stealing other people's letterhead and issuing improvement plans without their knowledge. Wild times. We also talked about the Diddy trial. We got a little bit of delay on that one. prosecution objecting, but we'll come back on Monday and the trial should start in full at that time. And then a very short update on our former president, who is still currently demented, Joe Biden. But now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. And it is a beautiful Friday. I hope you accomplished everything you set your mind to. Your stack of mail has been properly addressed and or shredded. Email inbox cleared out and to-do list checked off. And we appreciate you being here. And I hope your weekend has some amazing plans ahead. And one of those involves meatballs tomorrow. All right, let's see who's here. And thank you for sending in these amazing donos and for the feedback on the show and for the comments and more. Oh, we got the Tish statute again here. Yeah, what's going on? Rick D is sharing over some links. Thank you, Rick D, for that one. That's another Colin Rugg link. Rhino Poop, what's up? Says, Inside Jen, what? No comment on that. That's the name of her show. Look it up. Inside, it might be with Jen Psaki, but like the logo, it says Inside Jen Psaki. There might be a little with in there somewhere. Inside with Jen Psaki. That makes sense too, but it's hard to see from the font. Rhino Poop, what's up? Spuds. Rob, the New York copycat of Canada's maid medical assistants in dying passed the assembly. It is on to the Senate where it could easily pass. Once this becomes law, it will be easy for other states to copy. Yeah, well, they have no love of life or humanity. They just want everybody dead. They want you dead before you come here, and they want you dead before you're supposed to go. Sick people. Chubby, these judges are just getting crazier and crazier on their rulings. Is SCOTUS waiting to fill a bingo card, betting on an office pool or something? This is getting beyond ridiculous. I know. Today's was crazy. Like now they're anonymous gangbangers who have class action protections. It's crazy. Chubby, thank you. Rhino Poop, what's up? Am I asleep in a nightmare? Nope, it's real. Anonymous gangbangers? Nope. Mrs. Poop says I'm awake. Yeah, we are awake. Can Congress establish limits for this sort of thing where the judge is a congressional authorized or created district judge? I mean, like term limits is kind of what you're asking for. And that would, I think, would require a constitutional amendment, since that is, I mean, you could make the argument that the life tenure only applies to the Supreme Court justices, and inferior court justices maybe can be subjected to some other statutory arrangement, like where judicial districts only exist for a term of 25 years or something like that, right? Like the district, not the judge, but the district or something. I think it'd be a tall order. Congress, first of all, is not going to do it, and they would screech about it, saying you got to have an amendment to do it. There's arguments, I think, both for and against. Teresa Thompson, what's up? And Lynn, thank you both for becoming members. Great to see you. See you tomorrow. It's going to be Meatball Bonanza, baby. It's going to be fun. Mark Shaw, you're going to meet Mama. Some of you have met Alexis, but you'll meet her. She'll be there. I'm sure you'll meet Greg. I'm sure you'll meet Peggy's probably coming over. Going to meet some family friends. It's going to be great. Mark Shaw. Okay, so if we don't know their real names, how do we know they're real people? Great question. Yeah, they lie about everything else. Why wouldn't they fabricate petitioners? So, there should be somebody, right, that the judge should validate that, but you also got to trust the judge to validate that. And we don't trust this judge either. So, like, the response would be, well, the check is the judge, and the court will just make sure that they're real. Okay, like how hard are they checking? Is the DOJ checking? Are they allowed to check on like the new additions to the class? I didn't see the judge order that all their real names and addresses get turned over to the DOJ, and the DOJ doesn't even know who the whole class is, because the class is broader than just the people in custody in some cases. Yeah, it's ridiculous. All hail Tarpon Springs tyrants. Just became a supporter. Great to have you. All hail Tarpon Springs. Voice of the People says, I think it's StreamYard. We stopped using it because screen share worked for those in the studio, but viewers couldn't see the screen share. It might be StreamYard. Yeah, it might be StreamYard. I updated all the firmware on all the router stuff and like retested everything, and I think my internet's good. I did see some weird like connect disconnect stuff yesterday, which is why I made those adjustments on my end. But I'll check it. But not like the internet disconnected. It was just like devices switching around between routers and stuff. But yeah, I signed up for Restream again yesterday. I might just need to go back. I still need Restream for that though. Anyways, thank you for that voice. Maybe just switch over to OBS at some point. What's up? One old guy's opinion says SCOTUS needs to stop all this BS. Yeah, no doubt about it. It'd be nice if they, did their job. Mark Shaw, I'd bet Jeb wouldn't pass an IRS audit. The Boasberg, Jeb Boasberg, or Jeb Guacbowl Bush, the guac merchant. I don't know. Voice of the people. Thank you, Mark. Next Saturday, off-label members only will be members bringing topics to discuss with us. If it's members only, you should be the focus, not us. Love that voice. That sounds awesome. Yeah, so go become a member. Support the off-label streams. Sounds like a good one. Next Saturday. One old guy's opinions says psychotic Boasberg already sparked his baby stick and berries. Oh gosh, he has not learned his lesson. Impeachment is warranted by Congress. Impeach Boasberg, no doubt. Yeah, he's like maybe the worst so far. Mikhail Heim, what's up, Mikhail? Says, hey, Rob, can judges be held in contempt for violating SCOTUS's rulings? Yeah, I'm sure they could. I mean, a SCOTUS could drop the hammer on them for sure and, order somebody to be arrested or held in contempt or, incarcerated or sanctioned in a way. They could definitely do that. Will they? Unlikely. I don't know what they're doing right now, but they're entertaining a lot of this. Like, in my opinion, if I'm on the Supreme Court, I'm sure Judge Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, they're probably all very irritated with Boasberg because it's a slap back in their face. They said, you don't have this case. He has the case. He keeps it. Yeah. Mikhail, thank you. All hail Tarpon Springs Tyrants, 21 months as a membo. I thought you just became a membo. Yeah, weird. I don't know what's going on that. It says, when will the Logan Act be used, judges and senators? Well, I think you need the DOJ to prosecute somebody. DOJ's Pam Bondi right now, so don't hold your breath. Stephen Mosher, Article 1 should make acting without jurisdiction a felony. Like the legislature should say, yeah, if you're a court, Congress can say you're a judge who's breaking the law if it's been found. If the Supreme Court says you don't have jurisdiction and you keep acting, you go to jail. Rhino poop. A legitimate use of USAID. Grant the El Salvador a measly $10 million to build another concrete cot prison from Rhino poop. Would be better than the transgender helicopter parties in the Sub-Sahara and Congo. Stephen Mosher, hold the judges at fault for the damage caused by the release of Tren de Aragua, right? Especially when they're going to issue these nationwide injunction bonds without any, these injunctions without any injunction bond, no security. They say there's no repercussions, there's no damages to the government. Trump can just say, well, here they are. You're responsible for that. Rhino poop English. It's sort of like elimination by cop. Instead, it is avoidance of normal responsibilities, financial or marital, by claiming potential martyrdom and arrest, maybe. Yeah, so maybe it's asking like that's just that's how he justifies it. I was going to do it. I didn't do it. I got arrested. And so I have value now because of that act. So like you're creating the act for yourself that is the heroic act. Interesting. Yeah, that's a psychological puzzle there. Mikhail says, have you heard Schiff's mortgage and voter fraud crimes with 2 primary residences? I haven't seen Schiff's. I did see Tom Tillis's stuff and his like a dead relative or something that still has the deed to the house or something. An MD for lower refinancing rates and California home notarized in Maryland. No, I did not see that. That's interesting. So like in Maryland, that's his DC home kind of thing. But yeah, interesting. Mikhail Heim says Marjorie Taylor Greene brought articles to censure Ilhan for her loyalties. That's wow. Yeah, and hopefully her potty mouth too. Should be good. Yeah, Rhino poop. Mike Lindell's new product. Hey, buy my Ed Martin spit coat. Get one for your whole family when you're visiting DC. And now get an umbrella too. It's a spit umbrella. 2 for $25 today. Rhino poop, what's up? Is this new Times Square statute Letitia or Fanny? So yeah, we analyzed this yesterday. And couple indicia that we can look at. Obviously, the mouth is closed, which is an indicator that it's not either one of them. Shoes are on, so it's probably not Tish. And the size of the ass is too small to be either one of them. So it must be some other woman. I don't know who it is, though. What's up, Steel Manning? Do you know the Maryland man? The Maryland man? The Maryland man? Do you know the Maryland man who was sent to Seacott Lane? Yes, I do know the Maryland man. The Maryland man. The Maryland man. Thank you, Steel Manning. Mikhail Heim. I think I forgot to say that Schiff is being investigated for mortgage and voter fraud crimes. That's a pretty important word to leave out. Yeah, I didn't know that. Who's investigating him? Is it Congress? Interesting. We love a good pencil neck investigation. Thank you, Mikhail. What's up, Mark Shaw? Couldn't pay me enough to sniff around a big Fanny. I know, that's what I'm saying. That's why nobody wants to go in there. Moldy, stinky, obnoxious odor Fanny with prisoners dying of bed bugs and infestation. It's disgusting. It's disgusting there. Tammy Johnson, what's up? 2 months as a member. First month's the hardest. Gets easier from there. Thank you, Tammy. Steel Manning, do you think Trump could get away with creating an office of judicial oversight in the executive branch within the U.S. Marshals or FBI to go after judges? I don't think so. Yeah, I think that would be a separation of powers kind of a problem. It's like the same argument we have now. Like, how dare these judges come in and tell the executive branch how to run their business? I mean, he set precedent. He's like, wait a minute. You can come over here and tell me how to be president? That's kind of what we were saying. It's like, well, the executive branch pays for executes the law, which would be the leases and the contracts for the copy paper and the orders for the ink toner and all those things. So we're just not going to order any of your ink toner anymore. And we're not going to enforce the law of the leases. So you're done. You could get very nasty about it, but they would screech about that. But Trump could say, you're doing it to me. Why can't I do it to you? Mikhail, what's up, Mikhail? Bring it in. Michelle, bring it in. 5 new members. What's up? Lori Davis is coming in. James Fitch is in the house. Welcome, Vicky Jones. Karen FC Cap in the house. And Economath gifted members, courtesy of Mikhail Heim in the house. Great to have you. Thank you for bringing in new membo friends. What's going on, Uncle Bozy? I'm a constituent of Senator Trader Tom. If he is removed from office, either through resignation or being held in D.C. jail without bond after being indicted for fraud by Martin, who would replace him? Well, Rob, under North Carolina, our Democrat governor, Josh Stein, would pick a replacement to serve the remainder of the term. But Stein would have to choose from 3 Republicans submitted by the North Carolina Republican Party. I guarantee none of those 3 would be treasonous rhinos. Man, that's good details, Uncle Bozy. Yeah, Tom Tillis sounds like he's in some hot water. And for some reason, he's still petrified about January 6th because he's a pathetic person. Rhino Poop. I've been a membo for 0.5 gestational period. So it's like 4.5 months, I'd say. Originally thought your right to left underlining was due to left-handedness. But today I noticed you are right-handed with the mouse. This oppo direction underlining is a speed technique, isn't it? You're already reading the next few lines as you underline the comment. Sorry for the technique monitoring, but you could be awarded an A for this technique and the volume of info you cover per minute. No one does it better. Thank you for that, Rhino Poop. Thank you for that. That's a real high compliment. I do try to make this show like how much information per minute can we squeeze in? A lot of shows are very slow. Like they'll cover one topic over an hour or something. Like it's very slow, which I appreciate. I love those too. But we try to jam a lot in, like into one show. 3 segments. I try to make sure that there's some juiciness to them. And that's a real nice compliment. I appreciate that. Like there's some people I can listen to. There's a guy called Balaji Srinivasan. And Mark Andreessen made this comment. He's the Netflix guy about Balaji Srinivasan. He says that he said something about him like he has the most information density per minute of anyone he listens to, kind of a thing. Like he can communicate the most information, the most thought in the most narrow vehicle. It's like brevity is the soul of wit, kind of a thing. So I appreciate that. Nice compliment. Anyways, thank you for that. And yes, so I am left-handed. I do write left-handed. I throw right-handed, kick right-handed. Eat, I'm kind of ambidextrous on. kind of eat with both sides. Sometimes I forget which hand I'm supposed to eat with. But I do use the mouse with the right hand. And so the underlying is with the right. Mikhail, Fanny's signature is clearly a font and enlarged to reflect her narcissism. It's huge. Like, just put your signature on there. Like, why do you need everybody to know it's Fanny Willis in 70-point font? Golly. Mikhail says, my question is for Tush James. I know, that guy was great. Hey, Tush. What's his name? Come on. I know you love Rob too. That's funny. Yeah, I don't know what his name is. I just saw that on X, but pretty funny. Hey, Tush, you up there? Hey, Tush. How you going to like jail? Funny. Maria Kathleen, 2 babies. Maria Kathleen, and yet YouTube unsubscribed me. That's unbelievable. First of all, thank you for being here for 2 full terms. We've been through some serious business together. And that is really annoying that YouTube like literally unsubscribes you. It's happened to me too. I'm like, I'm 90% sure I subscribe to that channel, but you're never like 100% sure. Like, did I undo it? Did I do it? Nope, YouTube did it. Punks. Thank you, Maria, for resubbing. William Sanders, 50 membos. William Sanders, thanks for bringing in 50 new membos and not even being a membo yourself, just paying it forward. We got Tim Bowman, MG, Forgotten American, Andrew S. What's up, JH? Michaela Chrisman, My Alaskan Girl. What's up, Insidious One? Suck it up, Buttercup is here. Johnny Haggerty, Caustic Chameleon. We got Trisha, Marcia J. Levine is here. Eliza Jane. What's up, American MAGA Girl? We got Wood Tiger, Nina, Gio, Russell Pooh. We got Leah Golden Peoples is here. Francis, welcome. Daniel James, E. Hellstrom, Brian Underwood, Daedalus Creation is here. Howdy, hi. Todd Fredrickson, Pinochet's Helicopter Tours. What's up, Ravi T? We've got our friend Jeremiah Taylor, Patrick Barnes, Head Scratcher, Sean Denal, Nicole, Quoth Anon, John Armont, Foxhole, Sheila Marie, Wilt Chamberlain is here. Daniel Weilert, Yaki Mommy. What's up, Peggy Sullivan? Sarah with an H is here. DG Ocean Spray, Patty Boucher, Wandering Gamesley, Diana Mead, James L., Colin Boyer, None Dare Call It a Conspiracy, and Javier Silva, along with Raider Mac. Gifted membos, 50 membos, courtesy of William Sanders. Thank you, William Sanders, for doing that. And man, we're going to have a bunch of new meatball friends tomorrow on the Saturday's Meatball Extravaganza. What's going on, Rocky Water? If I ever see or hear a prosecutor in a trial prosecuting Tish referencing the Trump real estate decision as precedent for the relief sought, I'm not sure I can put into words just how decadently pleasing that would be. I wish no one in justice over prosecution, but in this case, mwah, from Rocky. Absolutely. Oh, and cheers to Matthew Russell Lee, Inner City Press. Great stuff as always. Thanks, Rob. Thank you, Rocky, man. Thanks for being here. Great to see you. Hopefully your weekend is amazing. Rick D, what's up? Sharing this one from Nick Sorter. Tish news. Grand jury has issued subpoenas in the big Tish investigation, courtesy of Rick D. Man, Rick, thanks for breaking that news. Super fun. All right. Well, more developments there. We'll get our hands on those subpoenas and see what's coming up with those. Mikhail says domestic abuse should be called and tried as the crimes they are, as domestic abuse. Well, I mean, unless you're an illegal alien, then no one really cares because reasons. Yeah. Good to see you, Mikhail. Jennifer says voice of off-label podcast will be showing Kash Patel's latest hearing in DC tonight. Oh, join him over there. Jennifer, thank you for the heads up. Off-label podcast be streaming the Kash Patel hearing. That was a good one. Steele Manning, Biden's like that chess guy with vibrating beads. Oh, the chess player. Yeah, with that thing in his Tish. Yeah. Don't really know how they did that exactly. Could have been a Tish vibrator in there. Like, you know, rook to B5, whatever. Ollie, 5 membos coming in, courtesy of Ollie. We'll see you tomorrow on the meatball stream. What's up? Penelope Piper Britt is here. Janine Prill, welcome. Stephanie C. Cherry is here. Rogue Source and Steve, gifted membos, courtesy of Ollie. Thank you, Ollie, for bringing in new membo friends. What's going on? Chat with me says, okay, so Rob, When the names in Boasberg's case get released, will it be blamed on Trump's team and destroying democracy? Correct? Yeah, absolutely. The democratic norms of our country are being shattered. This is an emergency, and Trump is acting like a dictator that's destroying all constitutional norms, no doubt. Yeah. So just get ready for it. B-Man, the spitting loon was arrested. That's amazing. Yeah, spitting loon was arrested. Good. I want to get that indictment too. Thank you. Or that complaint too. Thank you, B-Man. We'll look that up. Hey, Hook, can you post an ingredients list from the meatballs so we can cook with y'all? Yeah, let me do that today. We're done here today. I'll post that on the lodge. Okay, I'll post that at watcherlodge.com. And we might try to integrate you tomorrow. So if you want, we might do like a group call. So if you want to ask questions or come join in or something, we might be able to do that. Might be able to figure that out. So I'll post the ingredients at watcherlodge.com. I got to figure out what they are. Voice of the people. The woman who spit on the U.S. attorney has been arrested, facing 20 years. Good for her. Yeah. Was it worth it? You psycho. Ollie, what's up? Dave McCauley. Tiffany Henthart is in a lot of trouble. Also, Level got gifted a membo, courtesy of Ollie. Thanks, Ollie, for bringing in another friend. Rub some dirt on it. Says maybe the judge should allow the gang members to use their gang monikers in their habeas claim that they aren't gang members. That is hilarious. Yeah, we're not going to use their first names. We're just going to use their gang signs and their tats, their gang tats. They're allowed to use their gang tats in place of their real name because you can't identify their identities that way. Trump should request that. In lieu of pseudo-anonymity, what we would like would be their gang symbols, as we'd reference them as their gang names. Like, what was Kilmar called? Like Chakeo, Cholito, whatever his name was. Hilarious. Rub some dirt on it. That's actually Galaxy Whirlpool. What's up, Rub? What's up, Barbara With? Barbara With. Thank you, Barbara, for the very nice dono. When the heart sent that one in, we appreciate you for doing that. Very nice and generous of you. And I appreciate you being here supporting us today. Thanks, Barbara. Have a great weekend. What's up, G-Men? Says Don Brown is a solid primary candidate against Tillis. Yeah, we're getting pretty tired of the squishy Republicans. I mean, like, what's the point of having the Senate if they're just like Democrats, essentially? Mark Shaw, Trump should direct the DOJ and the U.S. MS to suspend court security of the Marshal Service for rogue district court judges until they get their minds right. Yeah, that's another interesting one, too. Yeah, so what checks and balances does the executive branch have against the judicial branch? And at what point do you start to invoke those checks? We're living through it, my friends. Thank you so much for sending those in. Very generous of you and highly appreciated. Welcome to new membos. We'll see our new membos tomorrow, along with all of our regular membos tomorrow. And we're looking forward to that. What's up? Let's say hello to our friends on X. Says, I watch on YouTube. They keep kicking me out within the first 5 minutes, says Retired Dave. I log in, no problems. I do get commercials, but they slow down. That's good. Yeah. Retired Dave. I don't know why it's kicking you out. So we saw this. We did diagnose some of this yesterday, and we saw that like the Rumble feed was fine. Like the Rumble feed was great. But YouTube was not. It was cut off, I guess. Andrew Godkin saying, what's up? Check out this thing from Frank Rocco. Frank Rocco. I think this is the Beryl Howell stuff. Thank you for that one, Andrew. Cool gal. Doesn't Judge Janine oversee this guy now? Can't she do something about this? Which one? The spitting lunatic? Yeah. Now Judge Janine is in charge of DC over there. Yeah. And Severus, what's up, Severus? Good to see you over on X. Says, say hi to Mama G. We definitely will. She's going to be here soon. Should be here very soon. So we're going to go say hello, give her a nice warm welcome, and have a great rest of the day. But my friends, thank you so much for sending those in. Shout out to our friends on X on the day. Of course, we also want to thank our amazing mods and meme smiths who mod the fort down for us. Keep things so nice and beautiful and orderly around here. Our friends, Donut Mind Me, Carrie B, Playing Hooky, Dog Digger, and Janek. And thanks for clipping for us on the morning. Carrie B, K Bean, lots of clipping today. Thank you for that. And our meme smith, Jigam, our Dockmaster Elliot, and our Purveyor of Fine emojis, Just Rhonda, also on YouTube on Just Rhonda's channel. So, my friends, that's going to be it for us on the day. Thanks for joining us early. It's going to be an amazing weekend out there, and I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow on the Meatball Extravaganza. Can't wait to see you then. Probably around 4 p.m. Eastern time is when I think we'll get going. I will assemble the recipe list and post that over at the Lodge and share that in the chat. So if you want to go over there, and if there's any adjustments, that's where the adjustments will be tomorrow. So we'll post it over there. But my friends, it has been a beautiful stream and an amazing week. It's really an honor and a privilege to be able to spend this time with you, going through this history together. It's a journey, and we're moving forward through it, and I'm grateful for it. So we'll pause there for the evening and for the weekend, of course. We are going to be back here on Monday if we don't see you tomorrow on the Extravaganza stream. And when we're back, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful weekend, my friends, and I'll see you right back here on Monday. Bye-bye.